I would like to thank Professor Pollack and the committee for inviting me to speak. It's a great honor. I think that the studies that are being done now in easy water are amazing, and I'm very grateful to be part of this conference. My presentation is Sonatherapy, Cymatics, and Photon chains, not Photon, which is in the sheet, the healing potentials of sound in the body's visceral waters. During 1975, we of Kissology International began researching the effects of sunlight and sound within the human body and its enveloping higher fields, the electromagnetic, higher dimensional, the chakras or color force centers, meridian system, bong and duct networks, and the acupoints. And research included the sciences of Kissology, synergetics, cymatics, perception studies, archetypal imagery, musicology, music therapy, pedagogy, theory, acoustics, and a host of related disciplines. By the 1990s, a systematic approach had been developed for therapeutic applications, holistic and non-invasive, known as sonotherapy. Since that time, this unique therapy has been made available at Steamboat Healing Center in Reno, Nevada, a National Historic Geothermal Facility, as well as at other global clinics in the USA, Japan, Czech Republic, Austria, South Africa, and Australia. I've written 2 books on the subject, Sona, Healing with Wavefront Bioresonance in 2008, and Sonotherapy, Healing with Light, Color, Sound, Water, and Subtle Energies in 2012. These are textbooks, over 500 pages each, and quite dense. These are now distributed on all continents to clinics established by practitioners, certified and licensed by Kissology International via Global Sonotherapy Training Course. And you can read all about it and get further into it at our website, sonotherapy.com. Now, sonotherapy applies 5 and 6 frequency sound arrays forming geodesic wavefronts directly within the body and its enveloping morphogenetic fields. The wavefront bioresonance formations consist of nuclear, optimal, or signature frequencies known to address specific biological functions and conditions. These fundamental frequencies are surrounded by 4 or more coherently harmonic tones. Placement of the tones above and or below is determined by clinical ratios and infrasonic pulse rates researched and documented over the past century by physicians such as Sir Dr. Peter Guy Manners in England, Dr. Paul Nogier, Dr. Albert Abrams, Dr. Olav Skille, Harold Saxon-Burr at Yale, Dr. Alfred Tomatis in France, Dr. Winifred Otto Schumann, among numerous others. I'll be putting the paper on Scribd so you can read the dozens of footnotes for each of these subjects. In addition, in sonotherapy, light, water, and color applications are synchronized, pulsed with the analog sonations. Acoustic foot baths, tubs, pools, and containers of water are further entrained with these phonon arrays. Therapeutically, the harmonically coherent sonations of both light and sound, directly applied, we believe, affect the frozen 4th phase visceral water layers in the body and cell walls, as John was just discussing, allowing for greater paracellular and or transcellular transport and absorption, removal of accumulated toxins, the speeding of oxygenation and CO2 exchange, along with transitional restructuring of the easy water geometries of higher EMS and synergetic potentials. In addition, sonotherapy stimulates the lymphatic system and critical aqueous flows throughout the organism on the microscopic scale. Effects of the sonations always include circulatory improvement, a lessening of inflammation, swelling, and edema, elimination of deposits such as calcium, minerals, and heavy metals, dioxins, PCBs, uric acid, et al. along with rapid neurological calming and/or revivification, amelioration of pain, and restoration of function may be achieved. And I should point out that this is backed up by 40 plus years of research and hundreds of case studies on file at Steamboat Healing Center. The scientific basis of sonotherapy is vibrational. All life proceeds from and is dependent upon wavefronts of photons and phonons for existence. As photon and phonon wave structuring is multidimensional, a priori quantum, on the physical level, organization follows synergetic geometry. Information factors are supplied to the entity via frequencies and resonances of both sound and light working symbiotically and in hydrotherapies. Biophotons in water follow synergetic 60-degree vectorial growth phases. Similarly, in physics, a gluon, or a vector gauge boson, which supplies all formative mnemonics, is defined as a combination of photons and phonons. Third-dimensional acoustical structuring may be observed, as we just saw, via cymatics. Sound resonated in a small dish of water produces evolving synergetic geometries by way of analyses help define classes of frequencies, resonances, and sound combinations known to be optimal in the nurturing of biological processes. The images on the surface of the water, illuminated with strong light, especially in the infrared wave range, the electromagnetic range, are formed within a heavier viscosity, similar to the fourth phase water in the body responsible for most biological formation and functioning, as Dr. Pollack has shown. And here you see a photograph of my Cymatics lab at Steamboat Healing Center, which isn't quite as sophisticated as the one we just saw John has developed. We have a carousel of several dishes containing water, each with a different diameter and mounted over a small speaker. The water surfaces are illuminated with a light ring above, projecting different colors, and with a camera mounted above with 4-time magnifying circular polarizing lenses to photograph and video record the cymatic images produced for lab analyses. And here are some of the typical cymaglyphs or wavefront formations we create. Sonation for the etheric field, one for rheumatoid arthritis, one for arteriosclerosis, anemia, the single frequency 144 hertz, and the single frequency 132 hertz. Therefore, the induction of specially designed cymatic wavefronts of sound into the body by way of vibrotactile and radiative applications, and especially in water, where sound travels 4.3 times faster than in air, allows sympathetic resonances to entrain the body's visceral waters with synergetic wavefronts, ensuring that normative optimal rates of bioresonance are restored. Sonations applied via such applications encourage all parts to adapt or return to their healthiest states of functioning, the best kind of self-healing. According to modern physicists like Claude Swanson, among others, the greatest sources of vital life energy, chi, prana, ormus, soma, mana, et alia, are in order. 1. Sunlight, light, color, and information factors contained within the solar field. 2. Sound, phonons, primordial pressure waves, or as many of the Russian school would say, torsion fields. 3. Air, containing all of the above, and ether. 4. Water, especially structured living water. And 5. Sacred geometry. A small dish of water sitting on a speaker illuminated with colored light being resonated with sound, producing cymatic geometries, is a combinatorial process embodying all of the above elements. That is, the synergetic patterns, the sacred geometry, produced are lifted within a fourth phase or easy water surface full of light, photons, air, and phonon chains. Taken together, these combined forces define subtle energy, and they are healing energies. Now we want to show the video of 90 hertz in water. Can I get some help on this? Not sure where to go. I'll play that video. It's that one, 90 hertz. Yep. That's the right one. Okay, this is a cymaglyph of 90 hertz in a dish of water. It forms a really beautiful cross pattern, and the same 90 hertz formation here being generated in an eggshell, demonstrating that the synergetic cymatics may be replicated as standing wave structures in various media. "90 hertz is 3 squared times 10, the beginning of the beta endorphin brain wave range." And here's the video. Note the 8 spirals emerging from and returning to the nucleus in clockwise and counterclockwise motion. Also notice that there are other tertiary vortices beneath the surface seeking to emerge. So we're talking about a multidimensional set of fields here. The actual cymaglyph is that you're seeing is actually the nodal standing patterns of water where there's very little energy. It's these spirals and the underlying torsion fields that are actually the active ingredient. By adding gold flecks to the disk of water, we may better observe the spiralic dynamics taking place below the nodes on the surface. And so that's what those white spots are. They're the 8 spirals. Phonons in water produce synergetic cymatic formations. These are nodal standing wave patterns. Beneath the surface, which is fourth phase viscosity or easy water, there are secondary and tertiary torsion dynamics in motion, sustaining the nodal harmonic patterns and seeking emergence. The entire water content is being restructured. The molecular clusters sympathetically and fractally reform and realign. Ionic polarities become more fourth phase and negatively charged. At the same time, the secondary field dynamics are ever present, giving life to the water and allowing for transitions to higher geometric formation. Back to the discussion, yeah, where we left off. Yeah, I'll go. Okay, now, new subject area, water, sonotherapy, and homeopathy. There are myriad types of water designated by as many names as we all know: juvenile, mature, mineral, well, rainwater, surface waters, geothermal, artesian, tap water, boiled and or distilled water, morning dew, consecrated, or holy waters, et alia. Various systems for energizing or dynamizing water have proven to be effective in bringing dead or unhealthy water back to life. In sonotherapy, we focus primarily upon the restructuring of water molecules, the clusters and inherent quantum fields, similar to the potentizing of waters in homeopathy. As we know, homeopathy is based upon water-based remedies carrying specific quantum field prints indicative of original substances no longer materially detectable. Such remedies are made via a series of dilutions, usually 10 to 12 dilutions at 10%, and succussions or percussive shakings, which create the vortices that we heard about yesterday. The newly designed sonations used in sonatherapy, in addition to containing higher field resonances, synergetically as cymatic growths geometrically restructure water so that it becomes sympathetically entrained with precise resonances, which via fractal dynamics fill the entirety in containment, that is, either in a body of water, tub, vessel, or the fourth phase visceral water content of the body in therapeutics. In fact, homeopathic solutions may be even further potentized with such 5 and 6 frequency harmonically coherent sound arrays. While phase synchrony of large numbers of cells in so-called circadian cooperative systems appears to be a result of nonlinear coupling of oscillations across the cellular and multicellular levels, such coupling between oscillators is pulsatile and synergetic. When a given oscillator fires, it pulls others up by fixed amounts or brings them to the firing threshold, whichever is less. This is fundamental sympathetic vibratory entrainment, and the functional plateau is reached when all oscillators are firing simultaneously in equilibrium. That is, they achieve vector equilibrium. Neuronal networks, dependent upon electrically phase coupled systems, follow the same cooperative patterning across large numbers of neurons. And here we see a typical sound-generated cymatic form in water with 60-degree angulations indicative of spherical coordination as an octahedral structure. All of this is basic synergetic geometry and mathematics, Buckminster Fuller. Observed cymatic wavefronts of sound in water are circular and consist of a high-frequency constellation of event points, all of which maintain equidistance from the nuclear event point. All points in the surface are interconnected, most economically as omni-triangulated spherical wave matrix, a tensegral structuring. The closest positioning of spheres, or these wavefronts, organizes in all of nature as a vector equilibrium that is also the underlying tensegral form of the energetic torus, the core recurring pattern, donate-shaped energy vortex that evolves life at every scale. And here we see the typical torus drawing, and in cymatics, Buckminster Fuller's vector equilibrium in synergetic geometry, and toroidal equilibria, cymatic wavefronts that we have created in water. Information factors are generated at the locus of the oscillatory energy wavefront propagated. The body is not a machine, rather, it encompasses myriad networks of internal and external connections, or interconnections, across which information is carried to create, maintain, and modify functions, thereby establishing the overall integrity, functional tensegrity of the life form. New networks and patterns capable of exchanging more information factors fractally emerge at higher levels of organization in life, evolving more advanced energy fields within higher orders of consciousness. Thus, the aura or biofield should be viewed as a multi-level, multi-dimensional phenomena in which information flows among all parts of the entity. However, these are not mere factors of information and transport. Rather, they are conscious conversations, as it were, taking place between and among the various levels of order. Research over the past century confirms that a great many conversations are taking place. For example, Fritz Albert Popp, a pioneer in biophotonic research, has described findings of biophotons and other extremely low-level transactions taking place on a continual basis as electromagnetic bioinformation lying below the thermal noise limit, inducing biological functions and effects. Non-thermal EMF resonance interactions are the norm. as reported by Luc Montagnier, in regard to aqueous nanostructures and EMS communications. Bell's theorem of quantum non-local causality demonstrates the instantaneous interaction of photon-phonon entanglement. Quantum physics tells us that all of reality is non-local, a causality defined as instantaneous interactions of light and sound, not subject to time and space, and as an ongoing processional exchange of information factors within consciousness. The quantum potential conveys information everywhere at all times and is not subject to diminution. This consciousness, this IF potential, is only active when and where it is directed by intent. Within the field of alternative healing, intent is a highly popular term used by practitioners. Among the majority of sound healers, intent is believed to be the primary force at work, and all improvements with conditions are generally attributed to correct intention. This principle was researched, discussed, and demonstrated time and again in frozen water crystals by our late colleague Masaru Emoto. Okay, 2, water in the mononuclear phagocyte system. Water is the one element which operates in the body capable of responding to the cosmic tides and fields. Within this paracrystalline network, every cell, and not merely proprioceptive nerve cells, is responsive to changes of our position in space. As mentioned, much research has been undertaken in regard to the molecular structure of water. As long ago as 1939, H.S. Frank described water as a pseudo-crystalline structure resembling solids. In 1950, John Anthony Popel posited that water is a self-perpetuating form with a continuous molecular organization so that, as Professor Popel put it, a glass of water is in some sense comprised of a single molecule. Its structure is so finely balanced that its atoms respond to the slightest pressure and very low energy changes affected. In the body, water, therefore, is a sensor of extreme delicacy. Biologically, water balance within the body is controlled by the diencephalon. The antidiuretic hormone is secreted in the posterior neural lobe of the pituitary gland, regulated by the pineal, but the pituitary is also monitored by the hypothalamus, which in turn reports to the thalamus. Importantly, in sonotherapy, the 5 and 6 frequency sonations we have developed, these optimal bioresonances, address each of these areas. Forebrain, diencephalon, ADH, pineal and pituitary glands, hypothalamus, and thalamus, among other parts of the brain. I believe we were asking about, are these sounds in the brain? Absolutely, with the geometries fractally spreading. Okay, biophotons in water. A major concern in vibrational healing is structured water. Whether we're speaking of viscosities, gases, vapors, moisture content, frozen states, or many others, we're referring to 2 major aspects. 1, the molecular structure of water, its essential geometry, its informational content, and 2, the a priori quantum potentials and related electrodynamics. Both aspects are characterized as coherent domains, or in transitional states as non-coherent phases. John mentioned that with the transformational stages to get to a final cymoglyph. Newly structured water is said to be free of memory, contains negative ions, and is to a great extent alkaline. Once entrained with memory information factors, water can retain that patterning for long periods of time. The ability of water to retain memory has been attributed to its mineral content. However, the mnemonic potentials are determined more by geometric structuring and speed of phonon transmission. For example, mineral water, such as geothermal, having crystals, can enhance transmissions and help better establish the field of containment. Synergetically, water forms its own crystals hundreds of microns thick as surface layers, as with tissues and cellular proteins. The more structured water becomes, the more potential it has for enhancing hydration and cell-to-cell communication. Sonated water is regenerative and life-supporting due to increased levels of biophotons present. Structured water admixed with other water is also capable of purification and dynamization due to its inherent field resonances. These processes are fractal, similar to the homeopathic practice of percussively potentizing. And we should understand that photon chains actually do percuss molecules via regular pulse tone wave fronts. Structured water is energetic, synergetic, and follows 60-degree angulations in molecular alignments, hexagonal forms, which may be considered interlocked tetrahedra in primary position, indicating an overall octahedral energy field and potentially evolving to higher geometries, dodecahedra, icosahedra, and vector equilibria. Such much may be observed in the formation of ice crystals with 60-degree angulation. By contrast, if 90-degree angulation is present in ice crystals, there is no energy, no geodesic structuring, no life force. Cymalic analyses in water undertaken at Steamboat Healing Center in Nevada have documented in videos the fact that the phi or golden mean ratios incorporated into sonic arrays appear to significantly increase biophotonic discharge in water. Several of the produced videos may be viewed on our YouTube Sonatherapy channel. And I'm going to skip this video and move to the summation. Sonatherapy combines sound arrays and synchronously pulsed coherent light color in therapeutic applications via tactile applications, field applications, and water-based applications. Synergetic, geodesic, and harmonically coherent wavefronts are induced into the body, its water content, and enveloping fields by way of applications containing low wattage speakers or sound transducers, filtered bulbs, LEDs, and laser instrumentation. Both sound units with electromagnetic coils and light units with color filters project low levels of electromagnetism, which are also absorbed by the body and its fields, in addition to the infrared electromagnetism accreted by the acoustic friction among the atoms and molecules. The harmonic coherence acoustical principle dictates that each of 5 or more frequency photon chains are whole number multiples of a common fundamental, generally infrasonic, and both sound and light are more easily absorbed by the entity than are less than 5 frequencies and or steady state or non-coherent combinations. Such means that the sonations of light and sound are wholly synchronized and capable of overcoming field barriers, tissue interface, and habituation response. All of our sound sources are analog, not digital, as the former have proved far more effective in therapies. As geodesic wavefronts, the combinatorial arrays, accurate to within 4 decimal places, maintain position of placement, do not dissipate, and actually increase in amplitude as they are absorbed, thereby indicating full entrainment within the body. The synergetic geometries are observed and analyzed as cymatic formations in a small disk of water mounted on a speaker transducer. Classes of sonation types for given conditions and functions are compiled via this methodology. Sound phonon chains induced into water restructures the molecular clusters within the visceral waters of the human body and in other external water systems. Water may be purified, energized, dynamized, and entrained with resonances and cymatic geometries. Entrainments not only retained for long periods of time, but that may also fractally spread throughout large amounts of water in containment. And I thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for extending John's lecture in this more detailed fashion. So since you're very short on time, I would say only one question. Well, either Jerry or... Okay, Jerry. Go ahead.
So back to some basics. And in the patterns that you see, you have regions of different refractive index that create the patterns. And you were referring, as you said, to EZ. And it turns out that the easy structure, at least if we're right in suggesting the easy structure, is denser than ordinary water. And the refractive index, Nikolai Bunkin has a paper that demonstrates that the refractive index of easy water is approximately 10% or 11% higher than of bulk water. So I'm wondering whether at the very ground or basic level, the pattern that you see, the beautiful patterns in these petri dishes, so to speak, are alternating regions of easy, no easy, no easy, and so on. And if that's true, a way of testing it is actually pretty simple. And I'm wondering whether you know of anybody who might have done this. If you put pH-sensitive dye in the chamber, you would see regions, alternating regions of high pH, that is easy, and low pH, the region between the easies. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, and whether you know of anybody who's done that.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful experiment for us to undertake, and I suspect John is hot on that as well, because he's really more the scientist than I am. I should tell you people, my doctorate was in music composition and conducting 40 years ago, so I am not a professional scientist, but I do think that your pH testing would perhaps show these zones. And what we also know is that the water, when we're inducing the sonations, becomes more and more and more and more entrained, and on the bulk levels, not just the surface levels. For instance, I can take a quart of water and in 2 hours energize the entire field, and you can see the millions of bubbles because we've actually transformed the geometry. So these are the kinds of, that would be a good test of pH in that water as well. So
yeah, and also it might help to explain the healing behavior, because the body is full of EZ, and evidence from various quarters suggests that the more EZ you have, the healthier you're going to be.
Exactly.
And so if your therapy creates EZ, then it's, for me at least, simple to understand how it would be therapeutic.
exactly. Well, it's a big field, and we need scientists who really know what they're doing to start looking at this, because if we can find the frequencies for a tissue or a chemical and give that back into the body to heal, that's a no-brainer. We should be doing that.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I don't want to interrupt you at that stage, but I would suggest to shift further questions into the break, because we are running 15 minutes late.